I used to think the music blasting through my speakers was harmless. Now I know. It sounded exactly like what I heard in hell. I didn't grow up believing that songs could carry spirits. I didn't believe rhythms could drag a soul somewhere it never planned to go. But on the night of April 17th, 2023, the very beats I danced to in my bedroom became the soundtrack of the most terrifying place I have ever seen. And the worst part, when I heard those sounds again in the darkness beneath me, I recognized them. My name is Miriam. I am 32 years old. I was raised in church. I sang in the choir as a teenager. I knew the scriptures. I could quote verses like Hebrews 9:27. It is appointed unto men once to die, but after this, the judgment. I just never believed that judgment could happen so suddenly. Before I continue, I want to say thank you to everyone who listens to stories like mine. I know some of you stay up late watching testimonies. Some of you are searching. Some of you are hurting. Some of you are curious. I never thought I would become someone telling a story like this. If you are here, I believe it is not by accident. I am not sharing this because I want attention. I am sharing it because I came back with something burning inside my chest, something urgent. Thank you for giving your time to listen. Thank you for opening your heart enough to hear something uncomfortable. I pray you listen not just with your ears, but with your spirit, because what happened to me was not a dream, and it changed everything. I wasn't an atheist. That's what makes this harder to explain. I believed in God. I just didn't fear him. And I grew up in a Christian home in Port Harcourt. My father was a deacon. My mother prayed every morning at 5 a.m., her soft voice drifting under my bedroom door. I remember kneeling as a child, reciting memory verses. I remember altar calls that made me cry. But somewhere along the way, I became comfortable. By my mid-20s, I still called myself a Christian. I still posted Bible verses on social media. But my life didn't match my confession. I loved music. And not worship music. I mean the kind that makes your body move without asking permission. The kind filled with lyrics about lust, revenge, pride, money, power. The kind that makes darkness feel exciting. I told myself it was just entertainment. I told myself, God knows my heart. But my heart was slowly shifting. I started clubbing on weekends. Just socially at first. Then regularly. I drank not heavily, but enough to feel free. I dated men I knew I had no future with. I entertained conversations that dishonored God. I watched things I would never admit publicly. And the music, it was always there. My headphones were never far from me, on my way to work, in the shower, while cooking, before sleeping. The bass, the hypnotic rhythms, the sensual whispers hidden beneath catchy hooks. Sometimes the lyrics were dark, almost violent, sometimes openly rebellious toward God. But because it was popular, because everyone played it, I convinced myself it was harmless. When older Christians warned that some music carries demonic influence, I rolled my eyes. That's old school thinking, I would say. I didn't deny hell existed. I just didn't believe I was in danger of it. In my mind, hell was for murderers, or rapists, witches, evil dictators. Not for a girl who simply enjoyed modern music and lived a normal life. But Scripture says in Galatians 6:7, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever a man sows, that shall he also reap." I thought I was sowing harmless fun. I didn't realize I was feeding something dark. April 17th started like any other Monday. I woke up late. I rushed to work. I argued with my boyfriend over text. I felt emotionally drained. That evening, I came home frustrated and restless. Instead of praying like I used to as a teenager, I turned on music. Loud. The bass shook my small apartment walls. The lyrics were bold, sensual, rebellious. I remember lying on my bed, staring at the ceiling, letting the rhythm pulse through my body. I felt alive, free, detached. Around 10:43 p.m., I began to feel strange. At first, it was a light pressure in my chest. I thought it was anxiety. Then my left arm tingled. My breathing became shallow. I tried to sit up. The room tilted. The music was still playing, but it sounded distorted, slower, lower, like it was stretching. My vision blurred. A cold wave passed through me from head to toe. I tried to reach for my phone, but my fingers felt numb. Then it happened. I felt myself separate. There is no gentle way to explain it. One moment I was gasping on my bed. The next moment I was standing beside it, looking at my own body. My body lay there, eyes half open, chest barely moving. The music still blasted from the speaker. But I was not inside that body anymore. I remember thinking, this isn't real. This is a dream. Then the air changed. The room darkened unnaturally. And not like someone turned off the lights. It was thicker, heavy, like smoke without smoke. And beneath the music I had been playing, I heard something else. Whispers. Low, layered, almost hidden within the beat. It was as if the song had another dimension I had never noticed before. Then the floor beneath me dissolved. Not cracked, not opened. It dissolved, and I began to fall. There was no wind like normal falling. Instead, it felt like being pulled. Fast, through a narrow tunnel made of shadows. I could hear screaming, but far away at first, then closer, then everywhere. The smell hit me before I saw anything. Sulfur. Burning flesh. Rot. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The music, the same rhythm I had been listening to in my bedroom, was now louder. Warped. Slower, twisted. It was no longer entertainment. It was torment. And I realized with terror that I wasn't just hearing background music. It was the atmosphere. The fall did not feel like seconds. It felt endless. As I was pulled downward, the distorted rhythm grew louder. What once sounded like bass now sounded like chains dragging across metal. The melodies twisted into shrieks. The seductive whispers from the songs I loved became mocking laughter. Then I landed, not gently. My feet hit something solid, but it wasn't ground as we know it. It was dark, cracked, burning stone. The heat pierced through me, yet I was not consumed. I could feel pain without dying. I could feel burning without turning to ash. That was when I understood. This was not physical death as we understand it. This was spiritual exposure. The sky above me wasn't a sky. It was a ceiling of moving darkness, like smoke swirling in slow motion. Flickers of deep red light pulsed through it, almost like a heartbeat. And the sound. The sound was everywhere. It was layered, rhythmic, chaotic. At first it felt familiar, like the music from clubs, heavy beats, repetition, a hypnotic tempo. But underneath it were screams, synchronized with the rhythm. People were screaming in time with the beat. It was not organized worship. It was organized torment. I turned slowly. There were figures around me. Not demons at first. People. Shadows of people. Their bodies looked burned, but they were not consumed. Some were clutching their ears as if the noise was unbearable. Others were moving in unnatural jerks, almost like they were still dancing, but in agony. One woman near me was crying, "Make it stop! Make it stop!" But the beat only grew louder. Then I noticed something horrifying. The lyrics. The same lyrics I had memorized from songs I used to sing were echoing through that place. But twisted. Where the original song glorified lust, the version here replayed the consequences. Where the song celebrated pride, the version here shouted condemnation. Where the song mocked God subtly, the version here mocked the listeners openly. I heard a line I used to shout proudly while driving, but here it was being screamed back at the souls, followed by laughter that did not sound human. That was when I saw them. Tall, dark shapes moving between the people. Their forms were not clear. They shifted like smoke wrapped around bone. Their eyes glowed dim red, not cartoonish, not exaggerated, just cold. They did not stab or physically torture like in movies. They orchestrated. They adjusted the sound. One of them passed near me, and suddenly the music intensified directly in my head. It felt like speakers were implanted inside my skull. Every beat was like a hammer striking my thoughts. I fell to my knees. "God, God, please!" I tried to shout, but my voice sounded weak, swallowed by the rhythm. One of the beings leaned close. It didn't speak with lips. Its voice vibrated inside my mind. "You loved this sound." I felt a wave of shame so strong I could barely breathe. Scenes from my life flashed before me, dancing alone in my apartment, mouthing lyrics without thinking, laughing at crude lines, ignoring conviction. "You opened the door." That sentence echoed, and suddenly I began sinking again. The ground beneath me became soft, like hot tar. It pulled me downward slowly this time, not violently. I clawed at the surface, but my hands sank into burning sludge. As I descended waist-deep, the music changed. It became slower, heavier, and deeper. The deeper I went, the more the rhythm resembled something ancient, like tribal war drums mixed with electronic distortion. But it was not creative. It was oppressive. Every beat carried accusation. Above me, I could still see other souls. Some were forced to move rhythmically against their will, as if the sound controlled their bodies. Others were screaming Bible verses, half remembered. Too late. I heard someone shout, or "We thought it was harmless," and the answer that came from the darkness chilled me more than the heat. Nothing that dishonors the holy is harmless. I sank to my chest, then to my neck. The burning increased, not just on my skin, but inside. Regret is heavier there. Regret feels like weight. I began to understand something terrifying. This place was not random chaos. It was consequence amplified. The things people loved without God became the instruments of their torment. For some, it was greed. For some, lust. For some, hatred. For me, it was the sound. Then the beat stopped. Suddenly. Total silence. The silence was worse. In that silence, I could hear individual cries clearly. I could hear my own breathing made ragged and shallow. And in that silence, a memory surfaced. My mother's voice when I was 14, telling me gently, "Be careful what you let into your spirit, Miriam. Not everything that sounds good is good." I had laughed at her. Now I was drowning. The tar rose over my mouth. Darkness closed over my eyes. And just before I disappeared completely, I felt something else. A pull upward. Different from the downward drag. Stronger. Pure. The darkness resisted. The beings shrieked, not in fear, but in anger. And for the first time since I arrived, I saw light. Not bright like the sun, but piercing. And the music, the horrible, distorted rhythm, began to crack like glass under pressure. I felt myself being yanked upward violently, like being rescued from deep water. As I rose, I heard one final sentence echo from below. She was warned. Then everything exploded into white. When the darkness shattered, it did not fade gently. It broke, like glass cracking under unbearable pressure. The tar that had swallowed me lost its grip. The suffocating heat loosened. The distorted rhythm that had felt embedded in my skull began to fragment into sharp, collapsing echoes. And then I was rising. Not floating, rising with force. The darkness below resisted. I could feel it pulling at me, like gravity made of accusation. The shadowed figures shrieked, their forms stretching thin, as if they were being pulled apart by the same light lifting me. Then I saw it clearly. Light. It wasn't blinding in the way I expected. It was pure. It carried weight, not heavy like the darkness, but authoritative. Clean. Holy. The closer I moved toward it, the more the noise beneath me faded, until there was only silence. And in that silence, I heard my name. Miriam. It was not shouted. It was not whispered. It was spoken with such clarity that it felt like it passed through every part of me at once. I did not see a face clearly, but I sensed a presence, overwhelming and gentle at the same time. I cannot describe it without trembling even now. The light surrounded me, but it did not burn like the fire below. It healed. I began to weep, not out of pain, out of exposure. Everything about me felt known. My secrets, my thoughts, the songs I sang when no one was watching, the pride I carried, the times I ignored conviction. I wanted to hide, but there was nowhere to hide in that light. Then the voice spoke again. You knew better. It was not angry. That hurt more. I saw flashes of my life again, but this time differently. Not like condemnation alone, but like missed opportunities. Moments when I felt the Holy Spirit nudge me to turn off a song. Moments when I almost deleted certain playlists. Moments when I felt uncomfortable with lyrics but kept singing anyway. I had felt warnings. I had ignored them. The voice continued. What you allow shapes you. What you celebrate invites. I felt those words settle into me like truth carved into stone. Then I heard something else, softer, yet stronger than everything before. My mercy spared you. And instantly I understood something terrifying. I had been close, closer than I ever imagined. The voice did not need to explain further. I knew. If not for mercy, I would not be rising. Tears poured from me uncontrollably. I'm sorry, I cried. I didn't know. I didn't think it mattered that much. And in that moment, I felt something like grief, not from the light, but within me. Grief for how casually I treated holiness. Grief for how I laughed at warnings. Grief for how I consumed things that slowly hardened my heart. Then the voice spoke words I will never forget. Go back. Tell them. The sounds they love are shaping eternity. There was urgency in it, not condemnation. Urgency. Your time has not yet come. As those words echoed, I felt myself being pulled again, but this time downward in a different way. Not into darkness, into weight, into flesh, into breath. I gasped, violently. Air rushed into my lungs like I had been underwater for hours. My body convulsed on my bed. My chest burned, my hands shook uncontrollably. The music was still playing, but now it sounded unbearable. The same song I had been enjoying minutes before now felt sinister. The lyrics sounded empty, even mocking. I lunged for my phone and turned it off. Silence filled the room. Real silence. I sat up slowly, clutching my chest. Tears streamed down my face. I looked around my small apartment, the same walls, the same furniture. But everything felt different. The atmosphere felt lighter, yet I felt heavier inside. I checked the time. 10:58 p.m., 15 minutes. Only 15 minutes had passed, but I had lived what felt like hours, maybe more, in that other place. I stumbled to the mirror. My face was pale, my eyes red and swollen. I was there, I whispered to myself. I was there. The smell of sulfur still lingered faintly in my nostrils, or maybe it was memory burned into my senses. I couldn't tell. I fell to my knees beside my bed, not the casual, distracted prayers I used to pray. Real prayer. A broken prayer. God, forgive me, please forgive me. I didn't understand. I didn't understand. I stayed there for what felt like an eternity. Memories replayed in my mind and the screams synchronized with rhythm, the beings orchestrating torment, the words, "You opened the door." And the most haunting part, the music sounded exactly like what I used to enjoy, not identical in melody, but identical in spirit. That was when scripture came alive in a way it never had before. Ephesians 5:11. Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. I had fellowship with things I didn't recognize as darkness, because they were packaged as entertainment, because everyone else enjoyed them, because they topped charts. I didn't see horns and red costumes. I saw popular culture, but beneath it, something else lived. And I had tasted where it led. The next morning I woke up different. Not dramatic, not loud, just different. The desire for certain music was gone, not forced, gone. When I tried to play one of my favourite songs, I felt a deep discomfort, not fear, but awareness. I could sense the weight behind the lyrics now. I deleted playlists, hundreds of songs. Some of them had memories attached, parties, relationships, road trips. But I deleted them anyway. I began reading my Bible not as routine, but as survival. I saw verses about guarding the heart with new clarity. Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. I realized music had been flowing straight into mine without filters. My personality softened. I stopped craving attention online, and I stepped away from environments that glorified the same spirit I had felt below. Friends noticed. Some mocked gently. Some said I was overreacting. I didn't argue. I couldn't explain fully without sounding extreme, but I knew what I had experienced. It was not about becoming legalistic. It was about becoming aware. Sin had never looked so serious to me before. Eternity had never felt so close. I am not here to scare you. I am here to tell you what I saw. Hell is not cartoon flames. It is consequence intensified. What you repeatedly feed your spirit matters more than you think. I used to say, it's just a song. Now I know nothing that shapes your soul is just anything. Please guard what you celebrate. Please take holiness seriously, because eternity is closer than we assume. I never thought I would share this publicly, but silence felt like disobedience. If you are listening to this and something inside you feels uneasy, don't ignore that feeling. That gentle conviction is mercy. Thank you for staying with me through this story. I pray you examine what you allow into your spirit. I pray you stay ready. May God keep you safe. Until next time, stay watchful.